check, check, check. Good morning and welcome to St. Mark's Live. I'm Adam Thomas. I'm the pastor here at St. Mark's, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to our live stream for today. This is Wednesday, May something, May 27th. That's the date today. Last week I was so happy that I remembered to put my trash out early, and then I ended up being a day late. Because that was Saturday instead of Friday. So that's the kind of week it's been. A beautiful day outside here in Mystic. And we are going to do something very experimental today, and it might not work. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. We're going to try it out and see. Basically, I am going to try to take this live stream setup on the road. I'm gonna get up from my chair, and I'm going to walk around St. Mark's and just do a little tour because many of you who are members here haven't been in the building since early March. And if you miss the building as much as I miss you, then I thought it would be nice to walk around and talk a little bit about some of the various spaces in our church today. Again, this might not work. There's a good chance that the video will get a little choppy or it might cut out, and I won't be here at my computer to know if it's getting choppy or cutting out. So if it doesn't work, and just go ahead and just turn off the stream, and I will find out when I watch it later. But if it does get a little choppy, I tested this earlier, and 10 seconds and then it kicks back in. We'll see if that happens. I'm going to walk around a little slower and hope that our various wireless access points around the building will be able to catch up with me as I walk around. But that's the plan. That's the plan this morning. I don't know how long this will be. It depends on if it works, I think. If you are watching and you have my cell phone number and it stops working, you can text me, and it should pop up on the phone that I'm using, and maybe we can figure it out that way. But that's enough caveats. So again, our plan is to walk around this morning and do a little tour of the church, just so you all can, see the building and remember what it looks like and all that. So it's just going to take me a second to get set up here, and then we'll start. We will start walking around. Okay, I'm just gonna cut to the hide screen for just a second while I'm getting ready. Alrighty. All right, I am now ready to walk around. Okay, so you should be seeing the door of my office, and we're just gonna stand up and we'll see how well this works. All right, time to go on our little tour. Okay, so here is my office. Um, can see there's my Legos. Yay. All right, gonna head out. I am the only person in the building, as is pretty normal these days. I'm gonna go into the middle hallway here. You might notice a Cat5 Ethernet cable on the floor here. That was from an earlier attempt of mine to try to get all the live stream stuff working. And it ended up being that the wireless in the church was better than the cable. So that's exciting. All right, so we're gonna walk up the back stairs into the sacristy and hope that the picture here continues to work. There's the lights. Here we are in the sacristy. I'll be back here in just a minute. All right, when I tested it, this is about the spot where I kind of dropped. So we will just take a minute to hang out here in the church. Hopefully if it didn't drop, then we're just going to sit here for a second. If it did, then this will give us time to catch back up. We'll walk over here and you can see all of my tripods and everything that are set up ready to do our Sunday morning live stream. The computers and camera equipment and audio equipment are all downstairs right now. But this is where that's all set up. We put my computer and extra monitor on this table here with the keyboard. And then we have one camera on this tripod and another camera on that tripod, so that the reader and I can maintain a good safe distance. And then the microphone goes in between us on that music stand, or that, what do you call that? Mic stand. And then I stand here in the middle of, this is sort of basically about where I preach from. And then that's where the camera goes, right there. It's pretty close to me. And I'll tell you, preaching to a tiny camera is so very different than preaching with a whole bunch of people sitting in the pews. I've recognized that over the last several weeks, that what I do during a sermon is really only 50% of what's happening, because the other 50% is the ears and hearts listening to what I'm saying. And there's this wonderful flow and give and take when there's a community gathered listening to the word of God and then listening to a sermon about our scriptures and about our life of faith and about the good news. So it's been quite strange preaching to a camera instead. So here we go. That's where I put my guitar. And here's our beautiful, of course, I can't remember what kind of flowers these are, but Gene Fader's been coming in to make sure that they still look lovely. We got a new Paschal candle this year, which is why it's nice and tall. This Sunday for Pentecost, I'll actually be behind the altar because we are going to do a service of Holy Eucharist with spiritual communion. That is communion that we share the Eucharistic prayer and then recognize that the presence of Christ dwells with us, even if we aren't sharing the physical elements of the body and blood of Christ. I haven't changed the lectern fall yet. This is interesting. You'll see that it's still purple over here. The reason is that you can't see it from the camera. And it shows you how long we have been doing these online services, because that is from Lent and we're almost done with Easter. We'll change it eventually, but it's sort of like when you stop a clock when somebody dies to remember when the time of death. This tells me when the last time we were all gathered together here in the church building, as well as their third Sunday in Lent. All right, so let's just do a little bit more walking around here. And hopefully this is actually working. I won't know until I go back to my office. Um, Going down the nave, you won't be able to see the beautiful window very well up there because of the light coming through, but our Trinity window is quite spectacular. Moving to the back of the church now, through these doors is the entryway, which is quite dark, so I'm not going to dwell too long here. The entryway here, this is called a narthex. That is a special church word for entryway. And we don't say it very often because it's very much a church word that is just adding a level of complication to a much simpler word, which is entryway. This is where our choir sits at our 10 o'clock services. Right now, our choir is virtual in that they are each recording themselves singing, and then actually my spouse, Leah, is mixing all of that music together for our Sunday services. The organ console is right there. That's actually a nice trivia question. Where is the organ in the church? The organ is up there. This is the organ console where you actually play it, but the organ pipes are all on the other side of the church. That's because the organ console used to be over there as well. And when the church was renovated in the early 1980s to bring the altar out from the wall, the altar rail was moved, and that necessitated the move of the choir to the back of the church. I'm actually going to show you a little secret of St. Mark's here in a second, which I find really interesting and a little funny. So let's move past all the equipment. Oh, actually, one more thing. This space in the church where the pews are has a special name. That name is the nave, Nave. So when we say, oftentimes we'll say, go up to the church or go up to the sanctuary, those are less specific words and actually inaccurate words for what we're talking about. When we actually say go to the nave, we mean go sit in the pews upstairs, because technically the sanctuary of the church is the part that's behind the altar rail. So here's the altar rail here. And the sanctuary is everything behind the altar rail. So we just crossed into the sanctuary. So everything on this side of the altar rail is the nave. Everything on this side is technically the sanctuary, even though we tend to use the word sanctuary to mean the whole interior of this structure. All right, so there's my seat. I have not sat there since March 8th. So when I am celebrating the service of Holy Communion, I spend a good chunk of the service back here. This is what it looks like. This is my view when I am celebrating Holy Communion, except there's usually a lot more people than just me here. But this is what it looks like. It's quite a view, actually, and it's wonderful when everybody is standing together and praying together. So this is the altar, and the fun thing that I wanted to show you is that the altar used to be, before the early 80s, used to be pushed up against this back wall here. This wall is called a reredos. And so the priest would actually, and many churches still do this, but we do not, but the priest would stand here and face with the people in the congregation when doing the Eucharistic prayer, as opposed to facing them during the Eucharistic prayer. The altar, many altars were pulled out from the wall in the early 80s. And you'll notice that the altar the back of it never got refinished. This is what I wanted to show you. It's really kind of fun. There's just a curtain here, but the actual, this is just unfinished right here because it got pulled out and there really wasn't a need to do the back of the altar the same way as the front. And so we have some storage back there, but it shows the history of the building that this altar used to be pushed up right against this wall. Over here, we have, that's called a credence table. This is our tabernacle. And in here, we have the reserved sacrament that we consecrated on Easter Sunday. Above it is called the light of the presence. You can see that glowing there. That candle is lit all the time as a symbol of the fact that the presence of Christ, as symbolized in the Eucharist, is always with us. All right, so this is our nave and sanctuary. And let's head to another part of the building. I don't think I can go down the back steps and still be on Wi-Fi, so we're just going to go in this way instead. This is the sacristy. Sacristy is just the place where all of the things that we use during a church service are kept. This is also our vesting room where we put on our vestments. Out that door is our memorial garden, which right now is home to a family of foxes that have at least 6 babies. All right, so we're going to head back downstairs. All right, going down the hall to the undercroft. All righty. Here we are in our undercroft. There's the lights. All right. Ooh, we only got half the lights. Let's try the other half. Try again. There they are. Okay. This is the undercroft. This is where we have our adult forums, our coffee hours, all kinds of other events. This is also where the NA group meets normally, as well as other organizations, the Girl Scouts and a few others. There's our large TV. And behind there is our kitchen. So here's something. This is a poster for the U.S. Census. I'm on the complete count committee for the town of Groton, and I spent a couple afternoons in early March delivering a couple of dozen of these posters to all of the churches in Groton, and there's over 25 churches in Groton. And then they all closed because of the pandemic, and I don't think anybody ever saw the posters that I delivered. But the census is incredibly important. Please, if you have not yet filled out your census forms, do so as soon as you possibly can. It is incredibly important because the census controls so much about funding and representation for the next 10 years here in Groton. All right. So we're just moving around here. And we already went that way. That's the way upstairs back to the church. This church was built in 1867. And back then, the undercroft is a bit lower. They actually raised it up. I'm not exactly sure when. I think in the 1950s, maybe. And that's why we have some more stairs in the front of the church. All righty. Gonna head back this way. Just do a little more tour here. Lovely handles. Yes, we got all new locks recently. Here's the entryway, and I probably am going to flip over to another access point of our wireless here in a second. Moving into our education wing, we have our lovely nursery. And this is our library, which was renovated a couple of years ago under the direction of then intern, soon to be curate, Stacy Cole. And she and her team did an absolutely gorgeous job. And now we use this library for lots of things, when before we didn't use it for much at all. Here's one of our youth rooms. And here's one of our two godly playrooms. This one is for our younger children. The godly play teachers are doing a wonderful job right now, sending out weekly videos of the godly play stories to all of our families, and they're doing fabulously. And I thank them so much for their work. Here's our other godly playroom. There it is. Our other youth classroom in there. You can always tell a youth room because it has couches in it. Our music room is locked right now, I believe, but there it is. And then down this hall is the toddler playgroup. They're, of course, not in session at the moment either because school is out. But hopefully we'll see what that's going to look like in the fall, where we are hopeful that they'll be able to come back in some capacity. So that is the other part of our building. And we'll just head back now to my office and see if this worked. All right, gonna head back, and if anybody has any questions about the building or about anything else, then you can put them in the chat if this is still working. We'll see here. Okay, I am now back in my office. Let's see. Did that work? I don't know. Let me know if that worked, or if you have any questions, because that was fun. I just don't know if it worked. Solo church. That, by the way, that's my father who's making those comments in the chat there. Liturgical color is right twice a day, or you're right. Yeah, I guess if you leave it purple long enough, it becomes purple again. Let's see here. Well, I'm glad that worked. Again, I am blessed to be able to come to the office. It is next door to my house, so it's easy to be here. And at the same time, it's so much different being here without other people around. I've actually been listening to music a lot more in the office because I'm used to there being other sounds, rustling of papers or the phone ringing or whatever. And recently it's just been so silent in here that I've had to listen to lots and lots of music in order to stay sane in the office. So are there any questions about our space or any of the church words that I used? Please do let me know in the chat. Excuse me. All right. We are continuing our pandemic shutdown of the building for at least the foreseeable future. We don't know exactly when. Right now we're operating on a June 20th timeline to be even thinking about what the next steps are, but that's also a fairly soft date. And we're trying to stay flexible about that. And yet again, we always have to remember that the church is the gathering of people. The building is important, but the gathering is what's most important. And right now we have been called to gather in a different way than we've ever gathered before. And that's virtually through the internet. And thankfully we have this technology that allows us to do that. I just realized I'm not on the right camera. There we go. Now I'm on the right camera. I'm probably now flipped the right direction. Let's see here. Yeah, I am on the right camera now. So we are called right now to be the gathering of people, but not physically present. And I think that's different than thinking about the church as being shut, closed, or open. The church is still open even if the building itself is not open. Sure. So the organ, I'm not the best person to actually talk about the specifics of the organ, but like as I was saying upstairs, it was moved from its space underneath where the actual pipes are to the back of the church, in order to facilitate the pulling out of the altar and the placement of the altar rail where it is. The organ it's a lovely instrument. It makes a nice sound, and our organist plays it very well. And the reason we haven't been using it during our online services is twofold. One is that I'm trying to limit the number of people that are in the building. And two, recording an organ with a microphone is very challenging, because the sound of an organ comes out of individual pipes that are all different sizes and frequencies. It takes to make an organ sound good on a recording, it takes some real specialized sound designer skill to do that. And picking that up with one microphone, I didn't like the way that it sounded because of the way that the sound is in the space. And so that's why I decided that for these services, the music would all be on guitar, with me as the musician, because guitar does sound good on a single microphone. But as far as the instrument itself goes, it's a lovely instrument. Of course, I don't know enough about it to speak too much more than that. But we are getting music from our organist and from our choir. Again, it's all digital. It's all been done from home. It's all been amassed and then mixed together. And right now we actually have some friends of choir members who are sending in recordings. So our choir is actually larger than I think it's ever been, strangely enough, right now. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, that was a fun thing to try out today. I'm glad that it worked as well as we could expect. And until next time, I do hope that you remain well. Please be patient, both with us here at the church, but also in society as a whole. Patience is a virtue. It is a fruit of the Spirit, and it's one that I think we're being called to practice right now. So with that in mind, I hope to see you all on Sunday morning on our live stream right here on YouTube, 9 a.m. It is the day of Pentecost, and I look forward to sharing that with you. In the meantime, may God's blessings be upon you. Thanks. Bye-bye.